In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I went from this to this. Stick around to find out how. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be building and customizing a Rumbleslam arena. We're going to begin by finding the corner pieces to form the structure of the ring, pop them out of the MDF, glue them together, and then glue them onto the underside of the board. Then we're going to find the side parts for the underside of the ring, and again glue them down to the MDF and glue them to the side legs that you've just previously glued in place. Once the final side has been glued into place, I again run some more glue around the inside of the structure at all the joints just to strengthen them up. Next, I'm going to build the turnbuckle part of the wrestling ring. With these bits built, they are then glued in place, and that is all the components I'm going to be using from the MDF kit. The rest we're going to be customizing. Next, I'm going to be using some coffee stir sticks. I'm using my cutting mat as a guide just to get a couple of straight lines on the edges as they do come round. Once you've cut the first one, just use that as your template to then cut all the rest, so you continue on keeping a straight line without having to keep going back to the cutting mat all the time. Then we're going to begin by scraping the straight edges with an X-Acto knife, just to give it a bit more of a rough, older wood look for this wrestling ring. Just be very careful with the X-Acto knife, as I did stab myself in the finger with it. Once the coffee stir sticks have been weathered and cut to size, put the glue on the side of the ring between the two turnbuckles, and starting from the top, work your way down. Try to stagger the joints on each layer you do, just to make it look like you would see on a wooden structure. Next, I'm going to be using Daz clay, which I picked up at the works for £4, and I only used one through the whole of this project. Next, we're going to take a bit, roll it out. I didn't have a rolling pin, so I just used an aerosol can. Then I'm going to use one of these moulds, which is meant for cakes. So when you do the fondant on a cake, you use these moulds. I picked them up. You get 4 different ones on Amazon. I think they're about £6. I'll leave a link in the description to them. But I found if you use the rolling pin or an aerosol can, whatever you've got, instead of just using your hands to push them down, you'll get a much better imprint into the clay. Then use your X-Acto knife and cut round the imprinted areas and then remove them. Place glue along the edge of the board where the squares are not, and then grab one of the embedded clay sections and place it onto the glue, lining it up with the start of the squares. You'll notice on the board there's a slight lip, so when you cut the clay, just give yourself a little bit of tolerance that it folds round underneath. Continue the stonework up the side of the pillars. At this point, there's a step you can take which will save you time that I didn't. In the corners, there's 3 ring eyes or hooks that hold the ring wire on. Cut them off now and completely wrap it round, and that will save you time. I didn't. I had to cut them off after, and then I had to fill that gap and blend the stonework in. Next, we're going to work on the stone caps on the pillars. So again, take a small piece of clay, roll it out flat, and cut it roughly into about a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. Then add a bit of glue onto the top of the turnbuckle, place the clay on top, and then carefully start folding it round and shaping it. When you're happy with the shape of it, we're then going to grab some kitchen foil, crumple it up into a ball, and then use that to add a stone texture onto the top of the clay. As I said earlier, this is the step I had to do, but if you completely wrap the stonework, you won't have to do this. So you see me here, I had to cut off the hooks and then add a small sliver of clay over the hooks and blend the brickwork in just to make it look like one solid piece again. With the stonework complete, we're now going to begin working on the wrestling ring surface. So we're going to use the coffee stir sticks. We're going to mark a template up that fits both sides because it's a square. Once one fits, it'll fit both ways. Then use that one to cut about 400 small strips, and then we can begin gluing them onto the surface of the wrestling ring. We're going to start gluing the small wooden planks that we have cut. So begin by laying 4 out into the square, making sure that where one starts on the line, the 4th one will finish and space them out. The square next to it, we're going to turn the wooden planks the other way to act as like a checkerboard sort of pattern, so we can tell the difference between each individual square when we're playing the game. So just keep repeating this process until all the squares across the whole board are filled. And of course the last one didn't fit, but with a little cutting of the clay I could then make it fit. Always the way on the last one. Next we're going to work on the fence that's going to act as the ropes for our wrestling ring. Again, we're going to use the coffee stir sticks, but we're going to weather both sides this time. Cut them to about 5-6 inches, and you need 4 per side, and then cut some smaller 1.5 inch sections to act as the posts. Then add glue to them and then lay them on top about 1 inch spacing. Once you've glued the rails onto the first posts, add another post on top to secure them together and let the glue dry. This is where I made a mistake. I put the end post too far away, so just double check it, make sure the posts line up with the edge of the pillars. But all I did to resolve this is I used a little bit more clay. I put it on the ends of the posts and the post that goes into the ground, and acted like another stone was sticking out. And then I just added super glue over the clay that I've done just to give it a bit more strength. Final thing I did was glue the wrestling ring itself onto some thick card, and then I cut the card round just to give it a bit of a sort of natural shape, and then just used the clay around the cardboard to cover it up and to hide any of the seams if the clay wasn't right down to the bottom or the wood didn't quite cover everything as you were doing the sides. Once everything's dried, I then mixed a 50-50 PVA glue and black craft paint, mixed them together, and then covered the whole project, all the wood, the clay, everything with this mix. I then gave it a Zenithal highlight with a white rattle can spray primer, as I'm planning to use speed paint. The first I'm going to use is hardened leather by Army Painter to go over all the wood, so that includes the top of the ring, the fences and the wood on the side of the rings. Next, we're going to use Gravelord Grey to hit all the stonework across the entire ring. Next, we're going to do a 50-50 mix of Orc Skin and Gravelord Grey. We're going to place this on all the stonework, even the woodwork, in small patches. And while it's still wet, get a bit of kitchen roll and then just dab it off just so it leaves a sort of green stain to act as like weathered wood where it's been sat in the rain and the moss has got to it and it's going green because of the algae, just to give it an old look. The final speed paint I'm going to use is dark wood, and I'm going to use that all around the card and clay that we put around the bottom of the ring. Next, we're going to add PVA glue to the surround of the wrestling ring, and then we're going to add a base ready scrublands from Geek Gaming Scenics all around it. Then I'm going to give all the base ready we just applied a spray of Matte Scenic Sealant by Geek Gaming Scenics. The Matte Scenic Sealant will help lock everything in place once it's all gone off and dried. Next, I'm going to begin by placing a load of grass tufts, meadow flowers, anything I've got laying around. I picked up a 400 piece set from eBay for about a tenner, which had a variety of different colours and different flowers and everything like that. So I'm just using a mixture across the whole board, putting some on top of the stonework in little cracks just to make it look like the stonework's split. Soil's got in there and dirt, and then everything's growing through. Next, what we're going to do is mix some static grass with PVA glue to form a sort of paste. And then we're going to use that to go along any joints between the stonework and the woodwork, or any big gaps in the woodwork. If you used any of the grass tufts or anything like that in these gaps, when you're playing the game, they're going to stick out too much and interfere with gameplay. So by using this paste, you can really force it into the grooves and keep it below the actual gaming surface, just to make the miniature sit a bit more better while you're playing. The last thing we're going to do is I printed off an A4 size logo of the Feral Den. That's the wrestlers I built this board for. And then we're going to cut out the skull in one piece. And once the skull's cut out, from the skull, we're then going to cut out the eyes, the nose, and the 777 that's across the forehead. So then we're just going to stipple it all over the centre of the stencil. By stippling it, we're not going to get it right into the cracks in the wood, so we'll still maintain that dark shadow and anything else we've done around the wood. Once you've painted that, I then use the hairdryer just to speed this up. But once it's all dry, relay the stencil over the top so we've got the shape of the skull, and then where you've cut out the eyes, the nose, and then I just use some matte black acrylic paint, again with the stippling technique, and just went all over them parts. Then the last thing I'm going to do is get an old paintbrush and just stipple some black paint all around the edge of the skull just to define it. But by stippling it on, we keep the same look is the paintwork we've just previously done. And that is the project done. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is the first time I've done anything like this and I really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it as well, please leave a like, subscribe. It'll mean a lot. And thanks for watching.